When I was 9 years old, I read The Weird Shadow over Innsmouth, and I really liked it. About the same time, I was a big fan of movie monster magazines. That was a thing that doesn't really exist now. We didn't have the internet then, right? My main one was Famous Monsters of Filmland, edited by Forrest J. Ackerman, who actually knew Lovecraft. Though, admittedly, Lovecraft thought Ackerman was a total poser and made fun of him in his writings and letters. Anyway, back then, we didn't have DVDs or even videotapes, so the only way to see an old movie was if the local theater was having a Halloween special early, or maybe on late night TV. This meant that though I could read about the creature from the Black Lagoon, I never got to see the actual movie till I was in my 30s. Furthermore, you could buy 8mm film from various magazines that would show the movie. I bought one of these once for The Mummy. Turns out it was 8 minutes of The Mummy, so it was like a highlights version. Now, I did manage, when I was a kid, to see The Creature Walks Among Us, which is the third film in the Black Lagoon series. It was on TV. That was all. Anyway, I mentally assumed, after reading, Shadow over Innsmouth, that the deep ones probably looked a lot like the Gillman. Also, if you don't know, Gillman is the proper name for the creature from the Black Lagoon. Now you know. And this is also awesome because one of the main family names in Innsmouth and Arkham is Gilman. Yay! In fact, the hotel the hero stays in is the Gilman House. Now, Lovecraft lived for words. I am certain that he knew just what he was doing by calling it that name. Anyway, these old movies have a lot of humanoid fish monsters in them. Almost all of these are one-offs without any sequels, but they all count as kin to the deep ones. So let's talk about these guys. A surprising number of them are interested in humans sexually, like Lovecraft's deep ones. All these things are upright bipeds, which makes sense because they're literally dudes in rubber suits. And because the earliest ones were really good designs, like the creatures in the Black Lagoon, most of the later models felt like they had to keep up. So overall, the rubber suits of the Fishman monsters are generally really stupendous, much better than most rubber suits. So I'm going to talk about these movies in the order of when they were filmed. So this first one, Mysterious Island, is from 1929. And it's about Jules Verne's book, Mysterious Island, but they have fishmen. And they're pretty adorable, as you can see from this picture. But hey, we had to start somewhere. So they don't do a lot. They're not really a very hostile threat, but hey, cute fishmen. And then from 1929, we have a gap of almost 30 years till The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which there's 3 movies. 1954, 1955, 1956. Bing, bing, bing in a row. The first one's fabulous. It scared my 10-year-old daughter when she saw it because it's pretty scary. The monster is swimming along. It's interesting because the monster's not evil in it. He just wants to kind of live in his lagoon, but he's interested in the girl in the swimsuit. Hey, who wouldn't be, right? Well, in 1955, the sequel, they go and they capture the creature and take him back to basically a marine world, and he gets loose and goes on a rampage. And then in 1956, they find where he's fled into the Everglades, and they capture him again. But this time when they capture him, they set fire to him. So his gills are burned off, so they have to stimulate his lungs. He already has lungs, he can breathe air too, but they stimulate. Anyway, that one's kind of a psychological dark thing. The creature's almost like the good guy. Well, the creature's almost like a good guy in all of them. At least he was for me, but maybe I was a crazy kid. So Creature of the Black Lagoon is a great film, and they keep talking about this happening. Like, John Landis wanted to remake it in 1982, but although I really wanted to see a new Creature of the Black Lagoon, I really hate John Landis because I feel he murdered Vic Morrow, so I'm glad he didn't. Anyway, they kept trying. John Carpenter tried to do it, Peter Jackson wanted to do it, Ivan Reitman wanted to do it, even Guillermo del Toro almost did one, though he eventually turned his into the Shape of Water movie, which I'm not going to talk about in the video, but if you want to see a Gilman that gets the girl, go for it. So, in 1956, there was a movie called The She-Creature, which was a noble attempt to add another classic monster to the film world. It didn't really succeed, despite the fact that the Fish Woman is one of the greatest rubber suits of all time. The She-Creature isn't technically a modern era life form. It appears because a hypnotist regresses a woman to a past life when we were all, prehistoric fish monsters with giant hook hands, and apparently a colossal bust line for the girls. Anyway, She-Creature is nice and short and doesn't overstay its welcome. It's got hypnotism in the giant monster, so I recommend it for fun. 1958, we have the hideous sun demon. Now, okay, there's no evidence that the hideous sun demon is actually amphibious, but the movie does take place on a beach near a lighthouse. He's got scales, and one of the killings is literally on the beach. The whole idea is kind of weird. It's like he wanted to have a werewolf, but he wanted to have a werewolf that came from the sun instead of the moon. So when the sun hits this guy, he turns into a scaly monster and kills things. And the hero, he's supposed to be the hero, but man, he is kind of... He's kind of a jerk. Like he like finds a girl and has sex on the beach and lays on the beach with her. This is 1958, so you don't like, but you know what happened. And then he just lays there knowing he's the hideous sun demon, but I guess forgetting about it because he liked her so much. And then the sun comes up and oh, lo and behold, and then he kills her. So it's like, dude, at least the Wolfman tried to chain himself up in a room or something. You're just eating people. Anyway, it's kind of fun. I would say it's not as good as She Creature. It might be one of the worst on the list. But then, 1959, there was a movie called The Monster of Piscesblancas, which is a place near Los Angeles. Now, this was especially awesome because when I was a kid, we didn't just talk about dinosaurs and prehistoric animals. We talked a lot about primitive amphibians. And one of the primitive amphibians we talked about a lot was the Diplovertebron. And in the movie, Monster of Piscesblancas, they say the monster is a Diplovertebron. This is a Diplovertebron. And this is the Monster of Piscesblancas. You can see it doesn't really look like a Diplovertebron, but hey, that's okay. It was also a pretty gory film for its time. Like the monster severs people's heads and carries them around, stuff like that. But it kind of suffers because the monster is only on screen really visibly for the last little bit on his rampage. But it is a terrific suit, and I always giggle when I realize that he's supposed to be a Diplovertebron, so there's that, I guess you have to be a paleontology nerd to care about that. So 1964, we jump ahead and we have The Horror of Party Beach, which is one of the greatest movies ever as far as entertainment. Not quality, but entertainment. So in The Horror of Party Beach, there's radioactive waste in the water and sunk sailors, and the sailors' skeletal corpses get turned into monsters that then come on the shore and kill girls, mostly teenage girls. It's there's a bunch of the monsters. They actually had two different kinds of suits they had. And they had an earlier suit that was crappier, then later on they went to the good suit, and they filmed scenes with both suits. And so you see the other suits in some of the scenes, and then they actually try to explain why there's two kinds of suits, as though radioactive silicon monsters need an excuse. Anyway, actually they aren't silicon monsters, they're killed by silicon. So the guy's driving around in a car with a bunch of silicon on the seat, which seems like dangerous. Silicon bursts into flame and air. But they use that to kill the monster. So there's explosions, and there's cool monsters that are a giggle to look at, and there's great psychology in it. There's early on there's a fight between a guy who's basically Eric Von Zipper, a biker, and the hero, and they have a big fist fight over a girl. They finish the fist fight, they shake hands, and they both turn their back on the girl. So she gets all mad and she goes off and gets eaten by a monster. There's also the scene where a bunch of the girls have a party. There's like 20 girls in the party, and the fish monsters crash the party and they kill all 20 girls. The next day, the surviving girl who didn't go to the party, that's how she survived, she's kind of down about her. I bummed. Geez, my friends are all eaten by fish monsters. Well, and then her boyfriend says this. He says, how long do you want to be gloomy about it? Let's go to a party. So they go to a party the very next day. So that was great psychology for a monster movie. Anyway, Horror of Party Beach. You won't regret watching it. Okay, so in the mid-60s, there was a TV series called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. There was also a movie. Do not see the movie. It's boring. But see the TV series. It's full of great stuff. It's got man-eating seaweed, voodoo curses, mind control, Vincent Price, aliens, giant underwater werewolves, all kinds of things. One of the episodes in 1967 called The Deadly Amphibians has a type of basically deep ones who plan to take over the human world, starting with the Seaview atomic sub. They try to turn a dude into one of them and they almost succeed. So, if you see nothing else from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, I recommend The Deadly Amphibians. So, 1970. In 1970, the Doctor Who TV show introduced the Solarians, a race of ancient but intelligent creatures who want to take the Earth back from, the monkey people, us. The Solarians are not portrayed as unredeemably evil and even noble in their quest. Also, the Solarian is kind of a weird time for humanoid reptiles to be appearing because, we only had fish then. There weren't any, amphibians or anything. But to their credit, in one of the newer Doctor Who's, the Doctor says that really we should call them the Eocenes, not the Solarians. That makes more sense. That would put in post-dinosaur. Later on, the Solarians add another species to the mix, the sea devils. These are related to the Solarians, but they're not the same species. They're more... it's not clear exactly how they interact. The sea devils are more battle-oriented. They're amphibious. The Solarians live on land. In the Doctor Who shows, the Solarians change makeup and look from time to time. That makes sense, because they lived for millions of years. They'd have variation in their body. My least favorite Solarians are the newest ones, because they look way too human. I mean, the females in the new ones even have boobs, which is idiotic for a reptile. I can't help but feel they blew it with the new one, but hey, at least we have all the old ones. So, 1978... Moving on up, Slithus. Slithus is an attempt to go back to the old school movies like She Creature, but it fails. You see, She Creature had a plot. Even had a romantic plot. The girl was in love with this other guy, and there's a hip, all that stuff, right? The creature from the Black Lagoon had a plot. The creature wasn't just killing for fun. He has other motivations. But Slithus is just a radioactive monster that kills people until it gets killed. So it just kind of, it's like that plot. Oh well. 1979. Island of the Fishman, also called Screamers. This is an Italian movie. It had extra footage added and was renamed Screamers for American release. It is mostly a mad science movie, and the Fishmen aren't particularly evil, but, it's in the genre. It's by Sergio Martino, who does pretty hilarious action stuff, so keep an eye out for it. Also, the Fishmen are pretty close to what I think of Deep Ones as being, so that's worth doing. 1980. Humanoids from the Deep by Roger Corman. Now, these are radioactive salmon monsters. Actually, they might not be radioactive, but they were probably formed by radiation, because why not? But they have the problem that only male salmon turned into the humanoids, so there's no females, so they come on land and they attack human women. And for some reason, first they tear off their shirts, because I guess, I don't know why, because fish wouldn't care about that, but I guess Roger Corman's viewers do. So anyway, Humanoids from the Deep have a bunch of fishmen that are killing everyone and also trying to have sex, but not really like a deep one. But they're not bad fishmen. So if you can handle the kind of rapey subtext, which is tough on me, there's Humanoids from the Deep. Also 1980, there's a movie called Octoman. Now, it bugs me that it's not Octoman, because it shouldn't be an A. It should be Octo. Anyway, it's kind of slow. It totally has an octopus monster, and they work hard to give it tentacles, and they sort of fail, but they get props for trying. It's not a fishman, but tentacles kind of fit, and it's loony. My friend Ken Begg, who loves Octoman, tells the story of when he was watching it with his little brother, and this is the first time they're seeing it. So this guy is running away from the Octoman, so he goes into a trailer and shuts the door. And Ken's little brother says, "Aha! Octoman will just slam open the door and get there." And Ken says, "Well, that's stupid. He has tentacles. They can't slam through a door. He can't get into it because he can only flobble around the outside. He doesn't have a thumb to work the handle on the door. So how could he get in?" So, in fact, the guy's safe, and then Octoman washes up and slams the tentacles through the door like the iron spikes and skin, and Ken was defeated. But he was defeated by how stupid Octoman is, not by its very nature. You guys probably all thought I was going to talk a lot about Dagon from 2001. I am, a little bit, because this is, in fact, the story, The Shadow Heart of Innsmouth, though, it's also the story of Dagon a little bit, and it is a great rendition of the monsters. He doesn't make them fishmen, but more like squid or octopus men. I think it's because he decided it was too hard to make fishmen look scary, which I think is not true, because we've seen some scary ones. Even the creature from Monster Piscesblancas was scary. Anyway, they have tentacles. I can deal with it, because the plot is great. My favorite two things about it, which you can watch for when you're watching the movie, is every time they're in the town, which is called Imbolca, which means in the mouth, so it's like Innsmouth. Every time they're in town, it's always drizzling or overcast. It's like always raining there. And the other thing is that no one in the town ever blinks, which is cool. And it was something I didn't notice till the third time I watched it, so it's nice and subtle. 2018, there is a short movie. It's only a few minutes long. It's called Shallow Water by a man called Sandy Calora, and I give him special credit because not only is he a man with the first name Sandy, which is great, but when his heroine fires a shotgun through a wall, it makes a little circle, not a giant thing of pellets. Most Hollywood directors seem to think that a shotgun makes this giant cone, which isn't true. Also, she actually picks up a gun with no ammo and then doesn't instantly throw it away, but hangs onto it in case she finds shells later on. I mean, that's genius by Hollywood standards. Anyway, Mr. Calora is someone to look out for. His movie Shallow Water is was actually funded on Kickstarter, and I really hope he gets a full-length movie done someday because he has a touch with short film. Now, there's more that I could have done, but that shows how strong the concept is of fish man creatures and how wise Lovecraft was to essentially invent it. All of these films, except the first, Mysterious Island, are after The Shadow over Innsmouth. Shadow over Innsmouth was the first. I don't know how many of them got their idea from him, but hey, some of them did. I'm especially thinking Humanoids of the Deep might have. And Mysterious Island's version, though it's a little earlier, is not so much, the same kind of thing. So, those are the Kin of the Deep ones. If you're curious to see movies which basically have deep ones in them, there's a bunch you can look at. Click notifications, clip subscription, and go here to buy my stuff. Thanks.